Hi everyone. Tonight, we're going to talk about something most people don't even notice until it starts to ruin their mornings. You ever wake up and just know your body's not happy? Like your gut's puffed up like an old loaf of bread. Your knees are muttering threats, and your lower back's staging a protest. Yeah, that was me last year. My mornings used to start with a groan and a stumble. I'd sit on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, just breathing, trying to figure out if the stiffness was from age, poor sleep, or maybe the questionable bowl of late-night noodles. Some mornings it felt like my joints had aged 30 years overnight. My fingers wouldn't close all the way. My belly looked like it had been inflated with a bicycle pump. And don't even get me started on the noise my knees made going down the stairs. Sounded like someone was stepping on a bag of chips. Turns out, this wasn't just getting old. It was my liver. Yep, the unsung hero of the body. While I was asleep, it had been working overtime trying to clean up the mess I fed it the night before. You'd think something so vital would get more attention. But unless it's failing completely, we barely acknowledge it. You probably won't survive long term if you keep ignoring the warning signs. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. And hey, post your city and what time it is where you are. I love seeing the map light up. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise. And let's get started tonight. It all started when I read something in a dusty, old wellness book at my aunt's cabin. It claimed the liver is emotionally connected to anger and frustration. At first I laughed, but it got me wondering if I'm waking up stiff, sluggish, and mildly irritated. Maybe something deeper was going on than just creaky joints. That same week, my buddy George Estes, the same George who swears by his foot massager and has a framed picture of turmeric tea on his fridge, told me he started drinking a liver tonic every morning, said it changed his energy completely. Now George is a guy who used to cancel plans because his ankles needed the day off. If something had him bouncing upstairs again, I needed to know. Of course, this kicked off my classic rabbit hole. Hours of videos, articles, some doctor on YouTube yelling about toxins, and a late-night Amazon cart full of herbs I couldn't pronounce. I didn't want magic. I wanted something real, repeatable. No unicorn powders. Eventually, I stumbled across something simple, shockingly simple. A drink so basic it felt like a joke at first. But the more I looked into it, the more it made sense. It was exactly what my liver had been screaming for: hydration, a gentle cleanse, and just enough bitterness to wake it up. You ever notice how old folks used to start their day with hot water and lemon? Or even something bitter like dandelion root tea. Turns out they weren't just being weird, they were giving their organs a head start. Let me tell you, the first time I tried it, I didn't expect fireworks, and I didn't get any. But on day 2, my stomach wasn't as bloated. Day 3, my hands felt less puffy. By day 5, I wasn't crashing mid-morning like usual. I had bandwidth. My legs even wanted to go for a walk. Voluntarily, it wasn't a miracle. It was maintenance. Now, here's an odd fact. Did you know the liver can regenerate itself? Like, fully rebuild, kind of like a salamander's tail. I find that wildly comforting. It means, even if we've treated it badly for decades, it's still game to heal. But only if we stop tossing garbage its way and actually offer it something decent. There's a phrase in medical circles, subclinical overload. It means things are going wrong just below the surface. Not enough to set off sirens, but enough to slowly erode your quality of life. You don't feel sick, you just feel worn. That's where I was. And I didn't need a doctor to tell me I needed to clean up my mornings. I just had to listen. I'll tell you exactly what the drink was in a second. But first, ask yourself, what would it feel like to not start the day with stiffness, fog, or that weird ache in your side you've been ignoring for 6 months? Imagine standing up from bed with ease, your gut not protesting, your legs feeling ready, no bloating, number, puffiness, just a quiet, peaceful body, humming like an engine finally oiled properly. That's what we're aiming for, and it starts with a glass. So what's in the glass? It's not kale juice. It's not beet shots. It's not some overpriced powder sold by a guy in a tank top shouting biohack your mitochondria. It's warm water, lemon, and just a pinch, literally, a pinch of turmeric and black pepper. That's it. And yes, it sounds underwhelming. I mean, how can something so ordinary do anything extraordinary? But here's what shocked me. The combo works like an early morning housekeeping crew inside your body. Gentle, quiet, efficient. The lemon kicks your liver into gear. Think of it like flicking the on switch in the control room. It contains citric acid, which stimulates digestive enzymes and nudges bile production, helping your liver detoxify. Turmeric. That's the anti-inflammatory MVP. It's been used in traditional medicine for centuries too. Support the liver and soothe the gut. And that black pepper. It makes sure your body can actually absorb the good stuff from turmeric. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't like the taste at first. My tongue said, "Excuse me, are we doing curry at 7 a.m. now?" But my body, it said thank you, loud and clear. And within days, I felt lighter, less water retention. My knees didn't argue every time I stood up. My hands stopped doing that weird puff-up thing they do when I eat too much salt. And here's an old age wisdom nugget for you. If you start the day sluggish, the day will follow. My grandmother used to say that as she made a pot of bitter gourd tea, which frankly tasted like regret and lawn clippings, but the wisdom stuck. Mornings set the tone, which brings me to the surprising bit. This drink doesn't just help your liver, it takes some pressure off your kidneys too. When the liver isn't overwhelmed, the kidneys aren't playing backup all day. Less fluid retention, less joint swelling, and bonus better skin clarity. Yeah, apparently looking less tired is a side effect. Now, I have to mention the academic debate around detox drinks. Some health experts say, your liver doesn't need help. It already knows what to do. And technically, they're not wrong. But here's where I challenge that. If your car can run on low-quality gas, should it just because the body can survive? Under pressure doesn't mean we shouldn't offer it support. You don't wait for your engine to explode before changing the oil, right? And while we're on quirky facts, here's a weird one. The liver performs over 500 different functions. 500. It's like a nightclub bouncer, housekeeper, and chemistry professor all rolled into one. It stores vitamins, regulates hormones, filters blood, processes medications, breaks down fats, and we expect it to keep doing all that with nothing more than a cup of coffee and last night's potato chips. Come on, that's rude. One morning, about 2 weeks into my new routine, I stood at the kitchen counter and realized I hadn't cracked my back or groaned once. My slippers didn't feel like bricks. My ankles weren't fighting gravity. It hit me then. My body wasn't just not in pain. It felt willing again. Ready. That was new. And here's something I'll whisper to you because it feels personal. I started trusting my body again. I used to feel betrayed by it. Like every creak and twitch was a sign I was breaking down. But now I feel like we're back on the same team. And yes, some mornings I still crave pancakes and bacon. But I do this little ritual first. I give my organs their moment. Then, if I still want the pancakes, fine, but usually I don't. I know this might sound dramatic for a yellow drink in a chipped mug, but it changed my rhythm. And when you're over 60, rhythm is everything. It's the difference between a stiff shuffle and a confident stride. So tomorrow morning, before the coffee, before the phone, before the noise, just try it. Warm water, squeeze of lemon, pinch of turmeric, tiny flick of black pepper, stand at the window, feel the steam rise. Let your liver sigh in relief. I didn't believe it at first either. You know how it goes. Someone swears by a health hack, swears it'll change your life, and then 6 weeks later, they're back to complaining about knee pain while eating nachos. So I stayed skeptical, even as I kept sipping my yellow morning brew. But then I noticed something weird. My bathroom scale stopped playing tricks on me. Now, this isn't about losing weight in the six-pack by Saturday kind of way. I'm talking inflammation, weight, the heavy, bloated feeling that sneaks up on you even when you haven't eaten anything wild. It was just ... gone ... and this wasn't a fluke. I compared notes with two of my friends, both in their 60s, both battling stubborn body fatigue. I got them to try it. One of them, Roberta, who's always dramatic, bless her heart, called me after 3 days and said, "It's like my stomach isn't angry anymore." The other, Dan, swore he felt less creaky, which coming from him is practically poetry. The trick, we realized, was consistency. You can't just sip turmeric twice and expect the Red Sea to part. You've got to treat it like brushing your teeth. Small, boring, regular . Now here's an old age wisdom fact. Little hinges swing big doors. My dad used to say that while oiling the door to his garage for no apparent reason. But you know what? That door never squeaked. And that's what this drink does. It doesn't make a lot of noise, but it gets your system running smooth again. There's also something poetic about the ritual. Boiling water, slicing lemon, the soft gold swirl of turmeric. You're starting the day with intention. You're saying to your body, "I've got your back today." And your body, it answers back eventually. Sometimes with a stretch that feels deeper than usual. Sometimes with a day where your hands don't fall asleep at the dinner table. I'll drop a quirky fact here for fun. Did you know your liver actually regenerates itself? Like a starfish. You can lose up to 70% of it. And it'll grow back. But and here's the debate just. Because it can heal itself, doesn't mean we should keep testing its patience with every greasy meal and late-night snack. This is where I split with the more hardline academics. They argue that detoxing is a myth, that the liver is self-sufficient. And yes, in an ideal world, with perfect sleep, zero stress, and a diet made of unicorn tears and kale, maybe that's true. But for the rest of us who sometimes eat fries out of a paper bag while sitting in traffic, our liver might need a bit of love. I also noticed this unexpected benefit. I stopped reaching for afternoon snacks. I don't know if it's the hydration or the slight bitterness from the lemon and turmeric, but something in that drink turns off the gremlin that lives in my stomach and shouts chips. At 3 p.m. daily, another thing, my sleep got better. Could be coincidence. Could be the domino effect of less bloating, less joint discomfort, and a more settled gut. Either way, I was waking up without that heavy, groggy cloud. It felt like I had stepped off the hamster wheel and onto solid ground. There's something humbling about realizing your body has been trying to talk to you for years, through fatigue, through swelling, through headaches and indigestion and restless sleep, and you've been ignoring it, until one day you finally listen. That's what this drink was for me. A small act of listening, and let's be real, some mornings I still forget. I reach for the coffee first, or get distracted feeding the cat. But the days I remember, those days go better. Not perfect, but better. And if I could give one piece of advice to anyone over 60, it's this: your health won't be saved by a miracle, but it can be shifted quietly, gradually, by a habit. One small, stubborn habit. That's what I'm building with this drink. A quiet rebellion against decline. A gentle no thanks to stiffness and fog and fatigue. And it's made me feel something I didn't expect to feel at this age. Hopeful. Here's where things got really interesting. My joints, those cranky little hinges I'd long given up on, started to play nice. You know that feeling when you stand up from a chair and everything pops like bubble wrap? That used to be me. Knees, hips, even ankles had a vendetta. But after a couple of weeks into my morning drink routine, the snap crackle pop symphony started to fade. Now, I'm not claiming I suddenly started doing cartwheels or breakdancing at Zumba class, but I could walk down the stairs in the morning without gripping the railing like it owed me money. That's progress. The anti-inflammatory benefits of turmeric and ginger are probably doing the heavy lifting here. That's the boring, science-y part. The more poetic side is this. It felt like my joints were finally exhaling, like they'd been clenched tight for years and suddenly realized it was okay to soften. And the timing couldn't have been better. My grandkids came over one Saturday, and instead of sitting on the porch like some relic, I actually got down on the floor to build Lego castles. Granted, I groaned getting up, but I got up. Without help. There's an old saying I remember from a neighbor of mine, Irene. She used to say, "Motion is lotion." At the time, I thought she was talking about some fancy skincare. Turns out, she was talking about joint sand. She wasn't wrong. The more you move, the more your body rewards you. But you can't move if everything aches. That's where this morning drink gave me the assist. Now here's a quirky twist. This stuff also helped my skin. I noticed my knuckles weren't as dry and my elbows stopped looking like they belonged to a sandpaper salesman. Could be the hydration. Could be the antioxidants. Could be that I finally remembered to moisturize. But hey, let's credit the drink. It deserves the win. The academic world is divided on this, of course. Some nutritionists argue that the benefits of turmeric are overstated, especially if you're not combining it with fat or black pepper. They call it bioavailability. It's basically a fancy way of saying your body might not absorb it well. But here's my takes. Some benefits are physical, sure, but some are psychological. That daily ritual, that warm yellow mug in my hands, tells my brain, you're doing something good today. And sometimes, that belief alone is powerful enough to kickstart real change. Let's not forget the kidneys in all this. While the liver gets all the press, your kidneys are the silent grinders working 24/7, filtering your blood like champions. But they're sensitive. Too much salt, sugar, or over-the-counter pills, and they'll start sending you angry signals like swelling in your feet or a general feeling of blood. This drink, with its gentle ingredients and lack of added junk, is like a love letter to your kidneys. A small thank you note for years of unpaid overtime. I remember reading somewhere that in traditional Chinese medicine, They associate kidneys with longevity. And while I'm not exactly quoting Confucius at breakfast, the idea that something simple can support something so critical feels right. Plus, I haven't had to take a single painkiller in over a month. That's huge for me. I used to carry ibuprofen like it was a second wallet. Now, it's just collecting dust next to the old remote I never use. And because life is weird, I'll leave you with one last unexpected thing. This drink made me crave less sugar. I don't know why. Maybe it resets your taste buds or tricks your gut flora into behaving better. But I no longer have to fight with myself when I pass the cookie jar. That battle got quieter. It's not a miracle. It's not magic. It's just warm water, lemon, turmeric, a bit of gingeran consistency. But in a world where so many things feel chaotic, having one tiny thing that actually helps, that's kind of a miracle in itself. I didn't expect it to help my mood, but that's exactly what happened. Every morning, standing there in the kitchen with my hair doing its best impersonation of Einstein's and the cat circling like I'm late for her breakfast. Drink it, that golden brew. And slowly, like a sunrise through fog, I felt ... lighter, calmer, a bit more with it. Now, I'm no therapist, but I've lived long enough to know when something's helping more than just your knees. I started noticing little things. I wasn't as snappy in the mornings. My patience stretched a bit longer. The grumbling in my mind, usually about politics, the weather, or my neighbor's awful parking, grew quieter. It turns out ginger and lemon have mood-boosting properties, according to some researchers. Something about serotonin pathways and reducing systemic inflammation that affects mental health. Now, I'm not trying to sound like a medical journal. Trust me, I barely passed biology, but I believe it, because I felt it. And I don't need a double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed study to know that feeling less grumpy is a win. There's an old saying my father used to toss around, especially when one of us kids got whiny. You are what you digest. I never understood that until now. But think about it: if what you eat affects your gut, and your gut talks to your brain, then yeah, what you digest might just become your mood. And here's the quirky bit of the week. I caught myself singing in the shower again. I hadn't done that since maybe 2009. It was some embarrassing 80s tune. And yes, the acoustics were incredible. Thank you very much. But it struck my was happy, and I didn't even realize I'd lost that part of me. The academic side of me, buried deep under flannel and forgotten. Library cards knows that the gut-brain connection is real. There's been all this debate lately about whether leaky gut is a legitimate concern or just the health trend of the year. But here's what I know. The less bloated I feel, the less cloudy my head feels. And that's not coincidence. That's a signal plus. I started sleeping better. That was the wildest part. I used to wake up every couple of hours, knees sore, back stiff, sometimes just thirsty or restless. But after a few weeks of this new habit, I found myself waking up less, dreaming more, and one night, kid you not, slept for 7 hours straight. My Fitbit gave me a digital high five the next morning. I almost cried. They say older folks don't need as much sleep. That may be true, but what they don't say is how brutal it feels to sleep poorly. If this little morning drink helps me sleep better at night, I'll take it. And just a note for anyone rolling their eyes and saying, it's probably just placebo. Maybe. But here's the academic dilemma: if the placebo works, is it still just placebo? That debate's been going for decades. And frankly, I'm too busy feeling good to care. And here's a bonus fun fact. When your joints feel better and your mood lifts, you suddenly feel a lot more like you. I started calling old friends. I said yes to a walk around the block instead of making excuses. I even started journaling again, and not just with gripes. I wrote about sunsets, jokes I'd heard, even the smell of toast. So yeah. One drink, one habit, a whole ripple effect. Sometimes we think big change comes from big effort, but the older I get, the more I realize it's the small, steady things that matter most. It was around week 3 when I started noticing something odd. My knees didn't sound like popcorn anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still the occasional snap or crack of laughter. I've been carrying this body around for quite a few decades, but that constant grind, that slow motion Rice Krispie sound when I'd sit down or stand up, gone, mostly. And I didn't change much. Still the same bed. Still the same pair of sensible sneakers. Still the same stairs that feel a little taller every year. The only thing I added was this morning drink, and it started to feel like it was slowly lubricating the machine from the inside out. The experts love to argue over what matters more: hydration, antioxidants, or anti-inflammatory effects. Honestly, I say, why not all three? Lemon is packed with vitamin C. Ginger has its legendary anti-inflammatory punch. And turmeric, if you add it like I sometimes do, well, that's the golden child of joint relief. But the real kicker, the consistency. See, back when I was younger, I thought health was about quick fixes. You pop a pill, you do a cleanse, you try that thing Sharon swears by and hope for magic. But now, I know better. Real change isn't fireworks. It's warm embers, burning quietly, day after day. That's what this drink became. A quiet little ember. One morning, I caught my reflection doing squats in the kitchen. Don't laugh. I dropped a spoon and didn't grunt when I picked it up. That might not mean much to someone in their 30s, but for me, that's a miracle. I even did it twice more just to see if it was a fluke. It wasn't, and I don't want to overhype this thing. It's not like I'm running marathons now, but I've noticed I walk more confidently. There's less of that hesitant, please don't buckle moment when I go down a step. And when I kneel in the garden, I can get back up without reenacting a scene from a survival film. Old age wisdom. I think it's this. Don't underestimate the power of a small act, done with care, done regularly. The body listens. Slowly, yes, but it listens. Here's something fun. I had a dream last week that I was dancing, full-on ballroom style, waltzing across a wooden floor that glowed like honey. I woke up smiling. That hasn't happened in years. Probably because the last time I danced, I nearly knocked over a buffet table. But hey, if my subconscious wants to waltz, I'll take that as a win. Academic folks would probably argue about causation versus correlation here. Is it really the drink helping my joints? Or is it because I'm also stretching a bit more and sleeping better? Maybe it's both. Maybe they're cousins, helping each other out while I just sip and smile. The debate is fascinating, but also kind of irrelevant to me now, because I feel the difference. And another quirky thing, I started naming my mugs. Not sure why. Maybe because the ritual of drinking this concoction every morning became a moment of calm, like a little ceremony just for me. I've got one called OL Reliable and another called Sunnyside. My grandkids think I'm losing it, but honestly, they'll get it one day. So, let's review: fewer aches, more mobility, better balance, and an emotional boost every morning. And I haven't even mentioned the way it gently nudges my digestion along, but that's probably best left for another time. Let's just say I no longer feared the bloat. It's funny. I used to think getting older meant just getting less. Less strength, less energy, less joy. But this drink, this silly, simple thing, reminded me that we can still gain. We can still build. We can still laugh when we squat and don't squeak. It's like I said to my neighbor last weekend while we sat on the porch sipping tea. Getting old isn't the end of the story, it's just a new chapter. And this one starts with lemon, ginger, and a whole lot of gratitude. The most surprising part of this whole routine. My mind got sharper to dot it. Didn't happen overnight. None of this did, but somewhere along the way, I realized I was forgetting things less. Not in a suddenly I remember every password kind of way, more like I wasn't walking into the kitchen and wondering why I was there anymore. I didn't leave the remote in the fridge. I remembered where I put my keys, and let me tell you, I haven't done that consistently since dial-up internet. At first, I chalked it up to luck. Then I thought maybe I was just sleeping better. But now I wonder if this little morning potion has something to do with it. After all, ginger and turmeric have been studied for their impact on inflammation, and there's growing chatter in the academic world about how chronic inflammation might mess with cognitive function. It's not definitive, sure. Some would argue we need more randomized trials. But I don't need a lab coat to tell me how I feel, and how I feel is clearer. Like someone wiped the fog off the windshield. There's something empowering about that. When you're younger, you take clarity for granted. When you're older, it's a gift. Like when your old radio finally tunes in just right and the static disappears. Suddenly, you're humming along again, remembering verses you didn't even know you knew. And here's something else I didn't expect. My hands, the joints in my fingers, used to feel like rusted hinges. I couldn't open jars without a small ceremony of grunts and prayers. But these days, they feel smoother. Not perfect, not 20 again, but less clang and more click, if that makes sense. My friend Sylvia, she's a sharp one, says, a body in motion stays in motion. And while that's stolen from a physics textbook, she's got a point. This drink got me wanting to move again. Once I started seeing little wins, less stiffness, more clarity, better mornings, I started stretching more, going for short walks, watering the plants without needing to sit down halfway through. Funny, isn't it? How one change, just one little decision, can ripple out and affect everything. Now, I won't pretend everything's perfect. I still groan. When I get up too fast, I still squint at the fine print. And I still forget birthdays, though I've decided that's a personal choice now, not a memory issue. But I feel good, like my body and I are finally on speaking terms again. Old wisdom moment. It's not about reversing time. It's about meeting yourself where you are and giving yourself the tools to stay strong right there. Also, small off-topic confession. I've started watching sunrise again, like actually watching it, tea in hand, wrapped in my old plaid blanket. It's slow, soft, and completely unproductive. And yet, it might be the most productive thing I do all day. You ever just sit and exist in the morning light? You should try it. Some academics might call it circadian alignment or talk about melatonin cycles and cortisol levels. But I just call it peace. And if this drink is what started the chain reaction that brought me to that porch at 5:45 a.m., then you better believe I'm sticking with it. So tomorrow morning, I'll fill my kettle, slice the lemon, peel the ginger, stir in the turmeric, and pour it all into Sunnyside, my favorite mug. I'll sip slowly, listen to the birds chirp like they're telling secrets, and let the warmth slide down like hope. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole experiment, it's that the tiniest rituals are sometimes the most powerful. Not because they fix everything instantly, but because they remind you that you're worth taking care of. So here we are. One little drink, one quiet change, and a world of difference. You might not see fireworks, but you'll feel the glow. Little less stiffness, a little more clarity, and maybe even the return of your morning smile. It's not magic. It's a gentle nudge in the right direction, repeated with kindness and intention. Your liver, your kidneys, your joints, they all want to thank you. But more importantly, you'll thank yourself. So pour that mug, breathe deep, and give your mornings back to you. Slowly, softly, lovingly, good night.